Yeah, that's confusing.
Take a deep breath. Let go of everything outside the world. Okay, let's go into chapter 5 of Tanya. Okay? We have to go a little bit about what we've just been discussing so far because it's been a few weeks. Right, so what we basically the theme so far is trying to understand what's going on in creation, of course, Amunah, the main principles of Amunah, if we know, and we always have to keep the imagery in mind of the ray of the sun versus the ball of the sun, right? The sun, and then there's the sun ray. And usually if you'll take the ray and put it back in the sun, the ray becomes nullified in the sun. So the comparison, of course, is what's causing us our existence, the original cause, the light of the infinite. And we're experiencing us being emanated, being willed into existence every moment. Very much like a ray of sunlight that comes from the sun. However, the big difference is the ball of the sun doesn't have a place. In other words, our Creator, the infinite light, is everywhere, in all places, in all times, and we are compared to basically being as a ray of sunlight within the sun, so therefore, in a certain sense, in the true reality of the idea, we're nullified. We're nullified in the Creator. We don't really exist, in a certain sense. We're completely nullified. Yet, here we are, experiencing, having every single thing that goes on. And how do we understand that? So we discussed that in chapter 4, that there's this concept of tzimtzum, the concept of God's constriction. That somehow there's names of God, and these names of gods, which basically have different expressions. The name of Yud-Keh Vav-Keh, that's the name of God, let's say, we'll talk about in the expansiveness, the giving, the willing into existence, us. And then there's Elohim, the name of Elohim, which is the name
judgment,
constriction, right, which is basically the understanding the law of the concept of judgment. Okay, so we say Hashem Elohim, Kashemesh umagen Hashem Elohim. As the sun, there's the sun and the shield is Yud-Keh Vav-Keh Elohim. There's the sun, which is like Yud-Keh Vav-Keh, emanating. And then there's Elohim, which is like the sheath, or the shield around the sun, which is basically expressed by the name of Elohim. And Elohim basically being the shield of the sun. Basically, Elohim is that expression which basically denotes this kind of tzimtzum, constriction, which basically gives us our existence. So the name of God, if we were to be exposed to it, we would be nullified. What gives us our ability to enjoy our existence is the name of Elohim, which basically hides that name, conceals that direct name of Yud-Keh Vav-Keh. Okay? It's like a filter. Okay? Which gives us our experience of existence. Okay? It filters it down. And just like we can't really conceive that we're created something from nothing, his midot, God's character traits, let's say his expressions, just like we can understand the expression of creating something from nothing, we can't fathom it, our physical mind. So also we can't fathom God's tzimtzum, we can't fathom God's filtration. Just like we can't understand the quality of chesed of God, has this expansiveness, it's beyond, it's unlimited. So also we can't understand his value, his expression of constriction either. We can't understand it. In other words, there's revealing, and then there's concealing, and the concealing part of God we cannot understand. Okay? It's there, it's a concealing, and basically how we're supposed to understand it is, it's there to help us. Okay? And he explains a very big concept in Kabbalah, which is called the vessel versus the light of the vessel. Okay? So the vessel, like Elohim, the word Elohim, it is a vessel. Our existence becomes a vessel. The constriction, everything makes the vessel. And then there's the light in the vessel. So without that vessel, you can't have the light. Okay? So you need vessel, and all of creation, all of Kabbalah is about vessel versus light. And vessel, I don't mean a physical cup, okay? But even we understand it with a physical cup, okay? It gives a boundary to the light that's in it, right? But then there's our consciousness. Our consciousness is also a vessel, okay? And the idea really is, of course, eventually to become a vessel, and we're all in the process, to become a vessel to receive the infinite light. We're all in the process of that, okay? So with that, now we start page, actually on this book, it's on page 59, chapter 5. More on the attributes. Because don't forget, his line was, just like we can't understand God, his attributes of kindness, expanded light, we cannot understand also his attributes, okay? And this is going to be an interesting, a lot of points here. It's a short chapter, it's all on one page here, you have it in the English, and, but there's a lot there. So here, just to read here his little, how do you call it, tie-in. This chapter continues the discussion in section 4 of the previous chapter concerning the divine attributes. Are you already raising your hand for a question?
Just something that's been... Okay, you have the dates of the calendar on here.
Do I? Oh, yeah.
And that is so that you do it in 1 year's time that you go through this?
I believe so. You can learn Tanya. There's a Seder of Tanya. You learn it and you finish it every year. Correct.
Okay.
So we're in Sivan, but we're not doing that.
Okay.
When you're a master, so then you could every year, okay?
And just keep...
They do this. They
recycle
do this.
over
Yes,
and
and
over
they read
and
it
over.
because this is the meat and potatoes. This is their source of the Chabad Hasidim. This is the source of all of their teaching. And they read the other teachings of the Rebbes, right? All of the other books as well, which kind of, always expound more and more and more and deeper and deeper and deeper. But this is their main thing, okay? All right, so this chapter continues the discussion of section 4 of the previous chapter concerning the divine attributes. In this chapter, we will learn that the attributes are real, not merely metaphorical, that they cannot be understood by humans, even through prophecy, but they can be grasped to some extent by the soul in the afterlife. In other words, there are these midot that God made that do exist, and it's not just our perception of it. We'll get to that more later, okay? V'hine al zeh amru rabosenu zichronam livracha. This is the meaning of what our sages have taught. B'tchila alav ha'machshava livro et ha'olam b'midas hadin. In the beginning, it went upon God's mind to create the world with the quality, attribute of judgment. But he saw that the world would not last, so he added his attribute of compassion. It's actually the source is Rashi in those words. In the very first verse of Genesis. As you'll notice, the very first verse of Genesis says, Bereshit bara Elohim. In the beginning of God's creating. Now, Elohim, the name of Elohim is used. Why isn't the name Yud Kei Vav Kei? Rashi asked the question. We're all trying to just, get into Yud Kei Vav Kei, because, let's just go for the source, okay? We're always trying to have the highest possible concept of God in terms of the essence of whatever, the highest part that we can grasp, which is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Why doesn't it start with Yud Kei Vav Kei? Why does it start with Elohim? And the answer that he brings down is, and you'll see the entire first chapter of Genesis is only the name Elohim used. Not only till the second chapter does it start with Hashem Elohim, then it puts them together. Why the change? Now, of course, those people who say, well, there's multi-authors to the Chumash, those, Fee-Bartons, or whatever you want to call those. The J and the P, there's the people who I can't believe, maybe they don't exist anymore, and I'm just talking in the air.
They exist.
They still do. Right? Well, they use this name because this was P and this was J, and it's just, okay? I can't even believe that anybody would buy such a load of malarkey, okay? But people do it, okay? And you can sell anything, right? If you can do Dianetics, you can sell anything. If you can sell Dianetics, right? To John Travolta, he could do anything, right? Actually, maybe. Need somebody a little higher. Okay. In any case,
That would be according to the J narrative.
the word Elohim was used in the first chapter for a specific purpose. And the idea here is expressed, and it's a deep... First, God desired, he wanted, went up on his mind to create the world with his attribute of judgment. But he saw the world would not last, so then he added the attribute of compassion. Yud Kei Vav Kei is compassion, Elohim is judgment. Okay? This always puzzles everybody, and it continues to puzzle me. What is this? Hashem goes, let's do it, like bake the cake this way, and say, nah, screw it, we've got to add this in. Well, he knows exactly what's happening from the very beginning. What was going on here? What is this? He's making a recipe out of midas hadin for the quality of judgment, and then all of a sudden, nobody's going to be able to handle this. Let's add a little bit more of this. Let's put this with it. Okay, the midrash that he quotes here does bring an interesting idea. The king has a vessel. I don't know what this vessel is made out of. He doesn't really explain. But he says, if I put hot into it, what's going to be? It's going to expand. It's going to, something's going to go wrong with it. And if I put cold in it, it's going to crack. Right? So I'm going to put hot and cold in it. Okay? So we're going to do a mixture, a blend of cold and hot. Okay? Because otherwise, So there's a lot of ideas to this. Okay? The main idea that I was always taught first was God did have an intention in mind that he wanted to create the system of judgment first. Because really, the idea here is, and it starts with the idea, the concept of the tzaddikim, God judges the tzaddikim kechut hasa'ara, by a hair's breadth. God judges the righteous by a hair's breadth. In other words, we make mistakes. And our mistakes, okay, we figure it out. We'll there's a road, there's a path, we can. But when someone on a high spiritual level makes a little bit of mistake, whoa, it's like the word. Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock. We can hit rocks all day, nothing's going to happen to us, right? We can still take a plane and go to Israel, right? Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock, you're out. I just hit the rock. I've hit the rock even before, 40 years ago. Why couldn't I hit the rock? It was just hitting. I spoke to the rock. The rock switched. They did a switch, by the way. The rock moves, right? They did the switch. Like, look at that picture over there, right? That famous one, right? And he did start. Whatever it was, he ended up hitting the rock. You're out, right? Okay? There's many other.
Was it the act of hitting the rock or the act of distrusting God?
So the idea, there's a big thing about Moshe Rabbeinu not coming into the land, and there's a midrash there in the Midrash Tanchuma in Parshas Miketz. If you look at it, I think that one of the second, third paragraph there speaks about, God has his upper agenda, and then he needs to implement his higher agenda. The higher agenda is Moshe ain't going in. And we're going to find an excuse. We're going to find a reason. So you hit the rock, good. I wanted to stop my kid from going to the rock concert. They didn't do it. They missed on an assignment and a homework 5 months ago. That's it. I'm going to rock.
That'll work.
It's not like you count them on a big infraction. Okay, You just, Hashem's got a big agenda. That's for that specific case. But there's the Tseil Chet of Avram Avinu. The Tseil Chet. The Tseil Chet means a shadow of a sin of Abraham. Unbelievable, right? Abraham, the most beloved, the love guru. Avram, cherished, right, by all, loved by God. But he made a little flaw. He made a little error, and that error actually stopped the world's redemption. Why? What was his error? When the angels came and he wanted to serve the angels and give them some food, he says, I'll get the boy to bring some water to wash your feet. Right? You heard about that? I'll I'll get the boy to wash. In other words, Avram Avinu didn't want to wash the feet himself. I'll get one of the.
Why is that bad?
I'll get one of the. It's like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
No big deal. Don't forget, every single thing that they're doing in the root of the tree has an effect in the branches, in the trunk and the branches of the tree. So that little flip, that little thing, what happened? You're going to see. Because Avram Avinu says, we'll have the messenger bring you water to wash your feet. Therefore, in the desert, we'll have a messenger bring you your water in the desert. Who's the messenger? Moshe. Instead of God directly bringing the water, therefore, now your water is going to be brought via a messenger. Are messengers always successful? Absolutely not. Okay? I send my daughter to go to the market to get some, I don't know what. It could be the simplest thing, you know? And they come back with, no, that's not what I wanted. You know? I'm telling you, send a messenger, get sugar. I want you to get brown sugar. No, I didn't want that brown sugar, okay? And I wrote down what it was, okay? The messenger, they don't come back. They don't. They're never 100% flawless. So because Avram Avinu didn't have washed their feet himself and had it done by a messenger, therefore that had a reverberatory effect. And in the desert, their water was brought by a messenger, and therefore, since the water is brought by a messenger and the messenger is flawed, therefore the messenger was not able to go to the land of Israel. Because the messenger, Moshe Rabbeinu, was not able to go to the land of Israel, because if he would go to the land of Israel, Mashiach, okay? Boom. So therefore, Avram's little shadow of a sin, boom. We just blew it. Many other cases. God judges the tzaddikim by a chut hasara. They want to play hardball. One of my mentors, Rabbi Zahavi Green in Eretz Israel, he always would say, you're going to play tennis with God. You're going to need a handicap. Right?
Right.
Because he's going to serve, and you're going to ask, did you just serve? Okay. It's not, maybe you heard a ball whisk by. Maybe.
It's
Okay.
just sitting over there. Where you
Right? You need a handicap, but the tzaddikim don't want to play with a handicap, because if you're playing with a handicap and you win,
You didn't really win.
right, you didn't really win. So they want to play hardball. The more, the better. The harder the ball, the better. Midas Adin is that hardball. He set up the system of potential hardball. I can play hardball. Okay? But listen, what happens? Not many tzaddikim, not many people but to play hardball with. And even the tzaddikim, nobody can stand in the face of judgment. Nobody can stand in the face of judgment. Ever. Ever. Because why? There's always going to be some flaw. Jews are really great at that, right? My wife showed me a clip of this unbelievable comedian. He was an Italian comedian, Sebastian Maniscalco, right? He says he's married to a Jew. He goes into a restaurant with the family. Their family says, I don't sit at the table because I know that's not going to be the table we're sitting on, because the wife, the mother-in-law, right? She's going to say, oh, the chair is squeaky, or it's too windy, too much traffic. He rips us to shreds, Baruch Hashem, but for good, because we're always like nothing's ever perfect.
With that, you got to tell the waiter
It's an
to
acid.
send you to the third table that
That's
you're
what he
going to.
he says, I don't know why I just don't tell them to give me the third table.
Okay. In any case, okay, the idea here is nobody can stand in the face of pure judgment. What does that mean? Okay? I got it today. I was reading in Rabbi Nachman, okay? He brings an interesting idea. Okay, there's lots to talk about this. This is, the idea, the concept really is vulnerability. Hasn't been talked about much. I think it's starting to come out with now. This lady came out with this therapy, finally understanding how vulnerable we are, and we are very vulnerable. Anybody who's a doctor knows how vulnerable the physical body is. One thing goes wrong, you're in Gehenna, you're in hell, right? So many millions of details have to fall into a place for a healthy body. It's unbelievable. It's a miracle, truly a miracle, right?
All the partial differentiation.
That's in a physical sense, in a spiritual sense, and we're and the idea really is we have to learn how to embrace our vulnerability. But even to embrace our vulnerability 100%, we cannot tolerate it. So God had to couple it with the midas of compassion. Because really, there's not enough tzaddikim who can stand in the face of judgment. No one can stand in the face of judgment. Ein tzaddik ba'aretz asher yaseh tov v'lo yechta. There's no righteous person in the world who does good and will not sin. Everybody is going to have some kind of flaw, Baruch Hashem. It's going to be a reality, okay? The idea really is, of course, to work on being mevatel, to nullify yourself to God in that vulnerable space, to know that God is your absolute source, and to appreciate now that you can now use your vulnerability to become a vessel for the expression of God's infinite light. That's the eventual course of action. But we cannot stand in the face of judgment totally. So therefore God coupled it with the quality of din. Okay? Someone had a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at that similar thought earlier, like last week, but I was looking at it from a different way. It's point of perspective. Like if you're here closer down into ASEA or whatever, there seems to be a vast difference between persons and stuff and their gradients. But then from God's perspective, we're pretty much the same. The idea that no one can like stand in the face of judgment and stuff. We all have like his hesed or whatever is like, and mercy and stuff kind of is, he goes beyond the letter of the law for all of us, kind of like thing. So if you're looking at it like down here, it seems like there's this vast distance between people, but when you're looking at it like from the sun's perspective, that disappears and nullifies.
Okay,
nobody can stand.
He kind of doesn't, he says kind of differently, okay? He's saying even from his perspective there's a difference, okay? In a certain level. Let's look at it, and then I think we might have some clarity on your point, okay? It's not just our perspective. It's God's attributes as well. Okay? He emanates actually these two attributes. This is what he's going to get into. Here, let's go on here.
Okay.
Here, I'm going on this page 59. If we were to look at God's attribute of judgment, Gevura, as a totally independent power from his attribute of chesed, this statement would make no sense. How could God possibly create the world with the attribute of judgment if all Gevura does is conceal, diminish, and hide? You can't be completely in the dark, because actually the whole purpose of God's creation was to reveal his goodness. So how are you doing creating a situation of complete darkness? Okay? It must be the case, as we have argued in chapter 4, that there is a deep integration between chesed and gevura. In other words, they're integrated in the high sense. Chesed provides the energy, Gevura, the containment. Chesed is the light, Gevura, the vessel. Everything's about light and vessel. So when originally God thought to create the world with this attribute of judgment, it means that in the careful balance between Chesed and Gevura, God originally intended to be more Gevura, more concealment. Okay? So that his creative power, his chesed, would be completely hidden. However, he saw that the world wouldn't last. If our purpose is to bring awareness of God and to disclose his presence, then too much gevura would make that task impossible. Okay? I ask, why would it be impossible? Okay? Anybody have any answers? Again, however, he saw that the world wouldn't last. If our purpose is to bring awareness of God and to disclose his presence, then too much gevura would make that task impossible, because how would you be able, one person to another, to express emunah, to reveal God's providence in the world? Right? We can see, we're in a harder state now. We're in more darkness in these generations. To be able to say, wow, God is in my life, and I'm going to show you how. I got a flat tire at 1:30 a.m. when I pulled into my driveway. That's God. Is that God or not? There is a God.
Synchronicity.
In other words, I drove all the way from L.A. to Texas, right, to Houston. Nothing. Boom. As soon as I pull up, woo, flat tire. I'm so good with that. God, I love you. Okay? So, there is a God. You can reveal God. If there's none of that, you can't communicate God with anybody. Okay?
Would you have even more love if all four were flat?
I don't know about that. Okay?
What did Harvey say?
It will be a great test. Thank you for that challenge. I'll pass. Okay? So he added, okay, too much gevura, too much concealment. You can't have too much concealment. So he added his attribute of compassion, right? And to what does that refer, to go on? Right? Dahayenu. Now what does that mean to add his compassion? This is his take now. It's very interesting how his take is, okay? Dahayenu his galus elokuto al yedei tzadikim. The added compassion refers to the supernatural divine revelations brought about by the tzadikim va'ososum of sim shebatorah and the miraculous signs and wonders of the Torah. Interesting how we don't have those these days. But many, many, many tzadikim, the last was Baba Sali, he was able to take a bottle of wine, wrap it up in a towel, and pour for a room full of people with one bottle. I know somebody who was there and saw it. Says, wow, I would save a bundle on grape juice if I knew that. Okay? So, the idea here is, okay, well, how does we understand that? So this is how he understands it. It's pretty interesting. Normally, God's light is safely and effectively contained in his quote-unquote vessels. This ensures that the universe runs stably and that nature runs its course. You need it. You need nature. You need God to be hidden. Because why? We need free choice. Free choice is a very important ingredient of creation. If you saw God's providence so open and revealed, we'd all be instant tzaddikim. We'd all be instantly righteous. Because we knew that if a person eats a piece of pork, they'd choke and die on the spot. Nobody would eat pork. Correct or not correct, right? It'd be like, everybody would see pork as being like drinking gasoline. Nobody drinks gasoline in their right mind. So you wouldn't eat pork, right? But instead, God doesn't. He lets people eat pork and still go on living. I don't know how, but they do, okay? I don't know for how long, okay? But in any case, God hides his providence, okay? So when God temporarily increases the amount of light so that the vessel overflows, so a miracle happens. These occasional violations of the natural order shift the disclosure, the concealment equilibrium towards more disclosure, making the universe viable. In other words, you gotta see there's a God in the world. Now, obviously, like I say, we're in more darkness, but we have to see God in our daily experience. We have to look for God in our daily experience, okay? We have to become seekers. We're in the ankle of civilization here, okay? The head saw God, unbelievable miracles. The next little generations later down in terms of the body, the torso, they also felt God in the temple and even after, right? They had a feeling. They were intuitive. Us, ankle, there's no seeing, there's no hearing. It's use the force, Luke. Okay? Turn off the computer and use the force. Okay? There's no other way. It is a period of darkness, but you have to use the force through praying, asking God, please God, no mishaps on the road, and then a flat tire when you pull up in the driveway. Okay? Or you got to see even those quirky things that happen, and you see God's providence. You have to tune in to his subtleties of your daily experience. Okay? But in any case, here he brings down the overflow of the vessel. Nice imagery. Do you see? Okay. A little bit of light overspills. You see those revelations. You read stories of the Baal Shem Tov, the unbelievable miracles that he would do. Unbelievable things that he would perform. Women who couldn't give birth. People who no doctors could cure. He would heal people. Unbelievable, miraculous things, right? Unbelievable stories, even revive the dead, right? Many, many tzaddikim could do that, but they understood that we have to conceal. But every once in a while, something would come out. and you'd hear a story about a miraculous event. Yeah.
How would they know that taking their actions at that time wouldn't cause more harm than good?
It's a problem, and that's why they would have serious. The biggest story that I remember was, the Kedushas. First of all, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, amazing stories would come out of people getting healed through him. Of the most recent Lubavitcher Rebbe, they have lists, they have pages, people you can call and speak to, right? People, unbelievable stories. It's a heshbon, it's an account. The greatest story that I always tell was about the Kedushas Levi and the original Lubavitcher Rebbe were traveling to go get some money. They needed to get some money to redeem a captive, and time was running out to be at a certain place, and they were confronted by a wall. They had to walk around to get to the gate inside the city. So the Barditch Rebbe says, so we're walking through the wall. And he started to go through the wall. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe caught him and says, no, there's time, my brother. We can make it. You go around. And he went, okay. Right? Because they want to play by the rules. They don't want to break the rules. Okay? Right? Yes, he had an accent like that. Okay. And this is what the Zohar refers to when it states, okay? And this is what the Zohar refers to when it states that above, in the holy, lofty domain within the divine realm of God's attributes, there is right and there is left. There is a right and there is a left in the cosmic realm. Not just our perspective is what he gets into, okay? Hesed and Gevura, okay? You might be inclined to think that God's benevolence and judgment are human constructs based on our limited ability to understand the one God. If he is unlimited, doesn't he defy any classification into specific character traits? Because we do say, God, Ani Hashem lo shanisi. I'm God, I don't change. And so people do, actually, the philosophers do say that it's all depending upon our vessel. That's why sometimes we experience God's kindness, and sometimes we'll experience God's concealment, his gevura. Right? Except the Kabbalists differ sharply on that. The Kabbalists say there's a mold God made. When he made the cosmic realms and when he made creation, he made a mold. Those mold are his attributes, his way of the guiding forces. And we learned in the Kabbalah that Esther Sfirot are his guiding forces. Keter, Chachma, Bina, right? There's Chesed, Gevura, which are the main two that he's dealing with now. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes are the confluence, right? These are guiding forces, how God guides the worlds. They are real. They do exist. They are the garments God wears when he expresses his providence in this world. You had a question?
I hadn't thought that brought to mind, but I kind of moved on past it or whatever.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So some so he brings in this note. Yes, some philosophers like Maimonides would say yes, it's human terms. It's described in human terms, and it depends upon the recipients how they see it. But yet, no, the Kabbalists, according to him, say sharply no, that these are attributes that God made, that he expresses himself, that he dresses in, so to speak. Okay, the top of 61. When God acts benevolently, he uses the power of chesed, and when he judges, the attribute of gevura is at work. These are actual attributes. What the Zohar means is that both chesed and gevura are real, divine attributes which elude the grasp of mortal intellect. In other words, they're beyond what we can fathom. Right? Since the world of Atzilut, emanation, he and his attributes that he causes are one. Hu v'garmaihu chad. Okay? So it turns out that the world's identity and form is more real than what we had previously imagined. While everything we argued in chapters 1 through 3 remain true, that the world's identity is voided by the divine energy that creates it constantly, it nevertheless is also true from our perspective that the world's identity is real. It does have a realness to it. From our point of view, all creations are not voided by their identity, by their source. Because why? Our separateness is maintained by the divine attribute of Gevura. So even if you could see the divine attributes from that vantage point, the world would still exist. If you could possibly, we say that there's 4 worlds, 4 dimensions that we have, right, in our tradition. Atzilut really means etzel, who. It means emanated, but it also means close to, by him, nearness. Then there's Bria, that's called the world of separation, the world of the throne. Then there's Yetzirah, formation, it's the world of the angels. And then there's our world, the 4th, called the world of making, Asiya. Okay? So in the world of emanation, the closest to the light of the infinite are these attributes. But nobody can go there. Okay? It's one of those gated communities, even bigger than River Oaks. Okay? Right? You cannot get in to that community, not even Moshe, as he's going to say now. He only gets to something that comes out from that. It is so high and sublime that if you could, though, grasp it, you would see that there are midot. Okay? We cannot grasp these energies. Okay? These guiding forces that God did make. Okay? So the limitations of prophecy, where am I in this page here? Even the comprehension of Moses, right? Even the comprehension of Moses, our teacher, peace be unto him, in his prophetic vision was not in the world of Atzilut, but only as Atzilut, becomes clothed in the world below it, the world of Bria, and even then was not of these 2 attributes. Even then he couldn't get directly from those 2 attributes, which is Chesed and Gevura, but only as they became clothed in the lower attributes, which are the attributes of Netzach and Hod. And, of course, Yesod, which is like the confluence of Netzach and Hod. In other words, there's, we say the divine flow flows from top down. If you'll know the 10 Sfirot, there's a lot to learn, so much to learn about the 10 Sfirot. Okay? Waves. Wave level 1, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet is wave level 1. Even Moshe Rabbeinu was not able to grasp that when it came out of Bria. He could only grasp wave level 2, which is called Netzach Hod Yesod. Wave level 2. Only then could he grasp God's attributes. Okay? It is only, so that's the prophets in this, and he's the master of all prophets. So all the other prophets, nobody can get these attributes. They exist, they're real. Okay? It is only the tzaddikim in Gan Eden, right? In Gan Eden, right? It is only the tzaddikim in the Garden of Eden who are granted the reward of comprehending the spreading forth of the life force and the light which issues from these 2 attributes. Chesed and Gevura. You need both, okay? You need both. And this comprehension is the food of the souls of the tzaddikim who, in this world, occupy themselves with the study of Torah lishma, for its own sake, for the sake of the life force, okay? For its sake is an interesting dynamic. It's a big conversation. What does it mean to study Torah lishma? As opposed to, should be lishmo, for the sake of God you're learning Torah. Lo, lishma, for the sake of the tree of life. In other words, that there is an expression of Torah in this world. That there is an expression of the tree of life. It has to be life-giving. Okay? Some people can learn Torah and it becomes a drug of death. You know these people. You've met them. Yes, maybe you have. I don't know where. I know I can tell you where, but I won't say. If we're in the 10 days of tshuva now, I'm not going to say anything. But you can go to some places and you'll see these people who are like learning Torah and they're osik in Torah and they're like, and you go, hello, and they'll go, okay. Like, should be shalom yid, right? Hello, Jewish man. Okay. Like, shouldn't it be a drug of life? It has to be. If you're not like this, if you're like this, okay, you have to revamp your methods of Torah study. Your whole approach has to be life-giving. That's why they say a person should only study parts of the Torah where his heart desires. Serious. Okay? Sometimes they want to force this on you, a lot of this, okay? But you always have to reserve deep space in your heart for the place that you love, because that is what gives you the life force, what makes you run, okay? But in the tzaddikim in the Garden of Eden, they're no longer bothered by the matters of this world completely, and they're shed, and they're obviously above the level of all of the prophets. What do? They need chesed and gevura, because what? The food of the souls of the tzaddikim who in this world occupy themselves with the study of Torah for its sake, for from the spreading forth of these two attributes, a firmament, because you need the firmament, you need a little gevura, a firmament is spread over the souls in the Garden of Eden. That's pretty funky. Okay? The firmament is like a bed of letters. That's right. It's an alphabet soup. Okay? The skin of the Leviathan, maybe. Okay? They're letters because the letters are vessels. You need the vessels. You need to get the concept. Okay? Everything is thought, word, thought. The firmament is the word. Okay? The letters. You need the letters. Okay? The energy of the letters is very dynamic. And this firmament is called Raza D'Oraisa, the secret of the Torah. In it is the secret of the 22 letters of the Torah, which was given from these two attributes. Gevura forms the letter, and then there's the light encased within the letter. Okay? Form of the letter, sound of the letter, that's Gevura, and then there's the light that is within the letter. Much to be learned in these. These are just tips of the iceberg. But we got to get into this, okay? I'm going to share with you something from Rabbi Nachman, okay? So it is in the secret of the 22 letters of the Torah, which was given from these two attributes, Gevura and Chesed, as it is written, from his right hand, that's Chesed, he gave unto them a fiery, that's Gevura, law, okay? Left is right hand, and fiery is Gevura, is power, or gevura, judgment. Law is the law, fiery law. So you need both, okay? And from this firmament drops dew as food for the souls. Which is what? Food for the souls? The knowledge of the secret of the 22 letters of the Torah. From this firmament is the secret of knowledge. And the food, and the Torah is the food of the souls in Gan Eden. And the precepts, the mitzvot that we perform, are garments of the souls, as this is explained in the Zohar. Okay? So we have two things, food and garments. You need food and you need garments. I got a few minutes, okay? Let me see what he says here. Oh yeah, okay. Okay. So I look in here. Something interesting that we always have to bring this home because it's very important. Even more so now that we're in the 10 days of tshuva. Okay? The Rebbe once said, Rabbi Nachman, this is in Sichot Haran, number 23. The Rebbe once said that everyone can see worldly pity. In this world, yes. Rachmanas. People do not want to be objects of such pity, and therefore they pursue worldly things. In other words, to avoid being in a pitiful state where you have to come on to help, you'll be motivated to get what you need. Clothes, food. Let's just look at the basics. Okay? People see the pity people have for those, right, who are hungry or thirsty or in serious trouble. They know how to react to a person who doesn't have clothes or shoes. Therefore, they do not want to find themselves in such a predicament because they see in the physical space, in the physical realm, you see people who don't have clothes and don't have shoes, right? So, of course, you'll try to help those people. And of course, in a deeper state, you'll make sure you're motivated that you don't end up like one of them. Right? One who sees clearly can also perceive the great pity that one must have on souls in the future world. For in this future life, there are souls which are literally naked. Still, it is impossible to show them any pity. See, in this world, you can show pity. If a person lacks clothing in this world, others can take up a collection and buy it for him. Such pity is impossible in the future world. You can't do it. He's going to share with you why. The clothing one needs in the future world is actually Torah and good deeds. Okay. Here he says the Torah is the food. Good deeds is the clothes. Right? And you cannot give them in the future world as charity. But a person who is close to the true tzaddik, he can run to him and receive any necessary article of spiritual clothing. Okay? He's always into that. You have to have a connection to the tzaddik. Okay? Whoever that is, whatever book, whatever sefer, whatever soul connection that you could aspire to. Connection to a righteous person. A conduit. Connection. Okay? The Rebbe discussed this another time and said that in the future world, many people will be left outside. In other words, there's going to be a big party happening. The Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. And then there's going to be some dudes outside the Garden of Eden. And they're going to cry in a bitter voice, give us something to eat. Something to eat. Right? Rocco. Right? Pazuela. Give me something to eat. People will come to them and say, here's food. Here's water. Eat, drink. The others will answer, no. We cannot use such food. What we need is the food of Torah and devotion. That's our food. Our food is Torah and devotion. Other people will be left outside naked. They too will cry, give us something to cover ourselves with. Again, people will come to them and say, here's some clothes. No, my friend. This clothing is absolutely useless to us. I don't know where you're going to get clothes up there, but whatever. We need mitzvot and good deeds to cover ourselves with. The Rebbe then said, happy is he who is worthy of eating many chapters of Mishnah and drinking a number of Psalms and clothing himself in good deeds. In this world, the language is a beautiful language. So you need to munch on something. Munch on some mitzvahs. Drink a little Tehillim, Psalms. You eat some Mishnah, nibble, right? You drink some Psalms, and you do some good deeds. You dress yourself with good deeds. So God forbid a person is not caught outside, right? Being one of those guys who, people are going to throw clothes at you and going, this is not the clothes that we need, senor. Right? Because in the next world, it's always told. Once a person crosses that line, they realize what the value of a mitzvah is, what the value of Torah is. They would do anything to come back and just do a mitzvah. They'd do anything to come back and learn Torah. Anything. Because then they realize, but then it's too late. Whatever you did in this world, if you didn't, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing that can be done about those naked souls. There's nothing that can be done about those starving people, right? It should motivate us, right? Munch on a mitzvah, drink a little psalm, do a little good deed, right? Okay? So what do we have out of this week? Okay? The idea here is there are actual qualities, very high and lofty. The quality mainly of God's chesed, his kindness, and the quality of his gevura, of his constricting. And they both are necessary. Not even the prophets could understand it in this world. But in the next world, God willing, all of us will be in the Garden of Eden, and we'll see this firmament above us, and we'll see these unbelievable letters of light, and each one of those letters is going to drop down dew. You can actually picture it right now. That's going to be your food. Unbelievable food, right? And then, obviously, the clothes, all of the good deeds that you did will be your garments, okay? That you'll have garments of light. The last thing is, there's the holy Baal Shem Tov, the very beginning of his book in Sfat Rivash. He brings down, V'hevi zahir b'mitzvah kala k'b'chamura. A person should be, literally, it brings this down in chapters of the Fathers, a person should be very careful. That's how it literally says. V'hevi zahir b'mitzvah kala k'b'chamura. A person should be very careful to perform a light mitzvah as with a strict mitzvah, heavy mitzvah. Okay? Because a person does not know the reward of a light mitzvah versus the reward of a stricter mitzvah. Okay? And the Baal Shem Tov takes it a completely kind of different realm. We understand this, and you have to be careful, because the word zahir does mean careful. But then he takes it to another realm of zahir, which means shine, like Zohar Harakia, like the shining of a firmament. That a person should make sure every day, he says, you wake up in the morning and say, what mitzvah can I shine with today? Okay? In other words, the Mishnah from the Baal Shem Tov's understanding is a person should shine with a light mitzvah and the heavy mitzvah. Make sure you use those mitzvahs, because these are your garments of light. Right? To shine with a mitzvah. Every day, make sure, what mitzvah can I shine with today? Okay? So the idea here of shining with a mitzvah, okay? That in the morning, think about it, okay? Anyways, we'll end there. Any questions, comments?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about the loftiness, the garments, the metaphor.